All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Daily Power Parsha. It is February 15th, 2021, and it is a pleasure to be studying Torah with you all. All right, I am pulling up the Parsha. Every time I think I'm getting used to the Parsha, the next week comes and it changes. It's unbelievable. You can't get any consistency here. That was a joke, right? Changes every week. So I'm here all week. Let's jump in. I'm going to share my screen with you. Let's get rocking and rolling. All right. Do you see that? Terumah, right over there. Torah reading for Terumah. It's coming up. Yes. Okay, good. All right. Let's do this. Let's start. The goal today will be to cover, hopefully, the first two readings. We'll see if we can do it. We'll see how far we get. There's a lot to talk about, and it's right there at the beginning. So this is after the Exodus, just to kind of paint the picture of context. It's after the Exodus, after the splitting of the sea, after the revelation at Sinai, that the Jewish people are told about building an edifice, building a temple, building a tabernacle. Just to clarify the language, the terminology. This is English terminology, so it's not that precise. But I'm distinguishing between the temple and the tabernacle. What's the difference? Essentially, they are the same concept, but physically they were different buildings. The tabernacle is the word that's used in English for whatever reason to connote the temporary structure, the temporary temple that was built in the desert, which is what we're going to read about in the times of Moses. It was built so that it could travel with them. Have temple will travel, we call that tabernacle. The holy temple were the buildings of stone, the permanent edifices, so to speak, that were built in Jerusalem by King Solomon, and then later on by the first temple, and then later on the second temple by the Jews who returned from the first exile after the destruction of Solomon's temple. Anyway, the point is that they both are about, all of it is about building a home for God, so to speak. One was portable, one was permanent. Anyway, hence the difference. But let's begin. The Lord spoke to Moses saying, Exodus chapter 25, verse 1, speak to the children of Israel and have them take for me an offering. From every person whose heart inspires him to generosity, you shall take my offering. So the first thing that's being communicated to Moses to tell the people is, we need donations, right? And this is what Jewish communities and organizations and synagogues have followed. This model has been followed ever since, right? Tell the people, take from me an offering. By the way, interesting usage of words, take an offering as opposed to give an offering, right? It doesn't say give an offering. It says take an offering, but that's weird, right? The people won't take an offering. They'll be giving the offering to Moses to build this building. What's the take? There's a lot of commentary on this. I'll share with you one quick, hopefully inspiring idea, and that is when we give, we really take. In other words, when we give tzedakah, when we benefit someone else, whether a worthy cause or a person in need, as much as we give, we get in return. And what do we get in return? We get a mitzvah. We get satisfaction of helping a cause or someone in need. There's a lot that we get, more than, as the Talmud says, more than a person gives, a person gets in return. Another way to look at it, so the Jewish custom, the biblical custom is to give a 10% to tzedakah. So the Rebbe once told someone regarding tzedakah, he said, give more than 10% of what you have, right? And then, because it's only supposed to be 10%, Hashem will have to make sure that you end up earning more money to make sure that what you gave was indeed the 10%. Hopefully that makes sense, right? I'm not going to break it down with the spreadsheet, but basically overextend, and then Hashem has to make sure that it all evens out. Anyway, but the point is that how either spiritually or emotionally or psychologically or even financially, when we give, at the same time we're also taking. Not that we do it for that reason, but just we should know that there is a blessing, there is a reward, there's a return on the investment in giving. So that's a quick insight into that word take. In the Hebrew, by the way, if you want to know what the Hebrew word is, it's v'yichu. V'yichu means literally take, which is weird because, again, the Jews aren't taking an offering. They're giving an offering, but hence cue up the idea that I shared. All right, what should they give? Or what should be taken from them? So the verse continues, verse 3. And this is the offering that you shall take from them. Here we go. There's going to be 13 or 11, 13 or 15, depending on how you categorize it, different categories of supplies. Donna, pay attention because this could be a future workshop. So here we go. Here are the items: gold, silver, copper. All right. I mean, that's your basic, Olympic medals right there, right? Your gold, your silver, and your, copper, bronze. But we continue. Blue, purple, and crimson wool. So different types of wool dyed blue, purple, or crimson. I'm assuming it's dyed because I haven't seen many blue sheep, but that just could be a result of me not being out there enough where the sheep are hanging out. But anyway, blue, purple, and crimson wool, linen, and goat hair. These are all things that we need for the donations, for this, to build this thing. Now, in addition, ram skins dyed red. Tachash skins. I know what you're wondering. What's a tachash? Right? What's a tachash? We know what a ram is. Know what wool is. Know what goat hair is. What's a tachash? Oh ho ho! Trust me, you want to know what tachash is. The commentaries want to know what tachash is. Ray, you got tachash? Hold on. Don't forget to unmute. I can't hear you. 1 second. I'm going to ask you to unmute, and then you probably can just click the button that in response. There you go.
Is that better? Isn't the tachash that big fish that we're all going to eat from? No.
That's the Leviathan. That's the Leviathan.
Oh, pardon.
But also, by the way, I would put them in the same genre. Tachash, Leviathan, Shahabar. I would join all these animals into this interesting category. But Tachash is understood to be an animal that only existed in those times for this purpose of providing the skins for the Mishkan, for the tabernacle, for this portable sanctuary they were about to build. Some say that the tachash was multicolored, kind of like rainbow. I don't know if it's exactly rainbow color, but multicolored. Do some say it has one horn? Is it a multicolored rainbow unicorn? Is it possible? I don't know. But tachash is understood to be some sort of multicolored thing. Take a look. Let's see if there's a Rashi that will clarify. Tachash skins. See this? This is how trust is built. Take a look at Rashi. This was a species of animal that existed only for a short time, and only at that time, and you guessed it, it had many hues, right? Gavanim, many colors. Remember Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat? Yeah, this is the tachash and the Technicolor or multicolor skin. Onkelos, one of the Aramaic, the ancient Aramaic translator of the Torah, renders the tachash in Aramaic sasgona, because it rejoices, sasas, and boasts of its hues. So it's a happy animal, it rejoices, and it boasts, it's very proud of its colors. If that's not a rainbow unicorn that we've all been waiting on, I don't know what is. Let's just say, again, it doesn't mention the one horn or no horns or two horns or three horns. I'm just, let a rabbi dream, please, folks. Let the dream happen. So so let's continue. We're not done yet. So these are all items that need to be donated. Oh, sorry, tachash skins, and we can't forget this one, acacia wood. You got to have your acacia wood, atzei shitim. That's a really important piece of it. Spoiler alert, I hate to jump in right now so quickly, but the acacia wood, that's what built the walls. By the way, the tabernacle, this sanctuary, was a marvel of engineering. I mean, imagine an edifice that you can disassemble, throw on a wagon, and move as you travel. I mean, think Lego, but before Lego. Or think, I don't know, what are there portables? Whatever. Portable structure, right? That's solid, but you can disassemble. It comes in panels. The panels were made of this acacia wood. Let's continue because we
Rabbi,
need. Yeah.
Rabbi, actually, the colors are in my PDF for Purim, because I found in Chabad.org, they talk about how these colors for the sanctuary relate to our inner sanctuary and how we relate to God. So I put it, purple is one of the 4 colors in the soul.
I love it.
The emotions with which of course, purple is our key color.
Yes.
For this subject. Purple is one of the 4 colors in the soul. The emotions with which we relate to God in our own inner sanctuary: blue, scarlet, purple, and white.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Yeah. Blue. Yeah, I think that's these are the guys right here. Blue, purple, crimson, and linen. Linen would be the white. I love that. I love that. Good. Now we just have to figure out what the tachash, how exactly that looked, and run with it. By the way, I'm sure if we all Google, is there a Southern word for that? Wall? I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure if we all Google tachash, we'll probably see some renderings of it. I doubt that anyone's got it like figured out, but it'll probably be interesting to take a look. Anyway, back inside, let's see what other items were needed for this edifice. Oil for lighting. That makes sense. Like menorah, think about like oil. Spices for the anointing oil and for the incense, right? Fragrant spices. Oh, take a look at verse 7. Shoham stones. You know what that is, right? And filling stones for the ephod and for the choshen. That's the breastplate stones. That's exactly what that is. Shoham stones and the filling stones. Those are the stones that went on the breastplate and the shoulders, the onyx ones. All right, awesome. And they shall make me a sanctuary. So notice that these are not described yet, what colors, what type. Later on, don't worry, it's going to get very detailed. This is kind of the general order, and then it gets very specific as it rolls on. And they shall make me, God says, this is still God speaking to Moses about what to tell the people. And they, the people, shall make me, God, a sanctuary, and I will dwell in their midst. That's a really beautiful verse, right? Build it, and I will come, right? Build me the sanctuary, and that's where I'm going to dwell. By the way, I'm going to stop right here and pause for a moment. The language of, in the Hebrew, v'asuli mikdash, they shall make me a sanctuary. V'shachanti b'socham, and I will dwell in them, within them. Our sages say it doesn't only mean, okay. The Hebrew v'shachanti b'socham literally means I will dwell within them. What's the them? You would think it should say, build me a sanctuary, and I will dwell within the sanctuary, the mikdash, right? Build me a sanctuary, and I'll dwell in the Mishkan. No, it says I will dwell within them, which leads our sages to say the goal is not that God should have a building, but that God, through this edifice, through this point of focus, should dwell within each and every single one of us. Hence the plural, dwell in their midst, not in the building, but in the heart and soul of every single one, which is what Donna referenced before about, and there are many beautiful sources on this that relate to the colors, but also to the actual items that were in the sanctuary, that to create a home, a space for God in our lives, we have to have an ark, what that symbolizes spiritually, a table for the showbread, an altar, various items, the menorah, right? So all these beautiful, all the beautiful furniture, if you will, or vessels of the temple are all symbols of how we can also build a home for God in our own lives. And again, it's all symbolic. You don't actually have to have, an altar in your house, right? Probably shouldn't have an altar in your house because we don't have a temple. But what it means, the idea of an altar being the place of sacrifice, that in order to build a home, to build communities, we need to be willing to sacrifice for others that need, etc. So there are symbols that relate to our own lives and our own sanctuaries, our own mini sanctuaries. But it's interesting here that God says, the verse says, build me a sanctuary in the singular, and I will dwell within them, which again leads our sages to say that yes, there is one sanctuary, but God wants a home within each one of us, within our hearts, souls, homes, etc. Let's continue. And it should be built per the specs, according to all that I show you. The pattern of the Mishkan and the pattern of all its vessels, so shall you do. In other words, I'm going to tell you God says to Moses, I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. I'm going to show you how to build it, and then tell the people to build it in that model. Now, that's the general commandment. That's the general supply list, right? Here's what we need. Let the people know. From this point on, from verse 10 on, we drill down into the details of what needs to be built, what it's supposed to look like, how it was supposed to be built, and what was supposed to be made of, and all the dimensions, all the details are right over here. The first thing that's mentioned, probably not surprising, is the ark. The ark is known to be the holiest of the items. Oh, I should mention, the Torah God does not first describe the building and then the furniture. We first go to, I don't mean furniture literally like a couch and a chair, right? You know what I mean? Like the vessels that were in the temple or the sanctuary. It first talks about the vessels. And only after that does it talk about the structure, which I think also resonates, at least for me. You know, what is a house? Sorry, what is a home? Right? When you think about a home, what is a home? Is it the four walls around the structure? Is it the oh man, I'm showing my ignorance in construction. Is it the drywall? Is it called drywall? It's drywall, right? Yeah. Is it the sheetrock? There we go. I know what we're here. Is it the sheetrock? Is it the plumbing? Is it the electrical wire? No. What makes a home? It's what's inside the home. And it's not the furniture either, but the point is that the measure of something is not by its outer structure, but it's by its inner contents. And this is true in life, in every area of life. Something we spoke about a couple on coffee yesterday, actually, about the difference between the outside and the inside. But within the Mishkan, the first thing we focus on, the Mishkan is the tabernacle, just to highlight the word Mishkan, right? Mishkan is that tabernacle in Hebrew. So the Mishkan, it's all about what's inside of it, what it represents. And the walls, you need a structure, but the main thing is the inner contents. First of the inner contents is the ark. Now, what did the ark was a box. The ark was a box. It would be very cool, by the way, if the translation, you could click a button and it showed you a picture. That would be convenient. Maybe I'll pull up some pictures as we go along, because it will, pictures speak 1,000 words. So it's helpful to see what it looks like. I think I'll pull up a picture or two. The ark was essentially a box with a cover on top. Inside that box was the tablets. Both sets of tablets, the first set that were broken and the second set that remained whole. So the tablets, which represent the Torah and the commandments, they were housed in the ark. So the first thing that's mentioned is the core of our people, the core of our identity, which is the Torah, our instruction, our guide for life, etc. So let's jump into the actual construction, the plans for the ark. So they shall make an ark of acacia wood. So here we're using that wood. 2.5 cubits its length, 1.5 cubits its width, and 1.5 cubits its height. So it was 2.5 cubits long. Now, how big is a cubit? We don't know exactly, but approximately 18 inches. So 2.5 cubits would be 2.5 cubits times 1.5. Is that about 4 feet-ish? Yes, maybe. 2.5 times 1.5 equals 3.75. All right, a little bit under 4 feet, right around 4 feet. Its length, 1.5 cubits its width, 1.5 cubits its height. All right, that's the size of the box. Now, take a look. So it's made of wood, but you shall overlay it with pure gold. From inside and from outside, you shall overlay it. Now, before we get to the golden crown, before we get to that last part, let's understand what it means by overlaying with pure gold inside and outside. What that means is that essentially the ark was made of 3 boxes, right? The inner box was wood. Imagine nesting boxes, right? Boxes that nest one in the other. Imagine 3 of them, 1, 2, 3. The middle box was wood. Inside, that means the top box, what rests inside that wooden box is a gold layer, and outside, right, that outermost box was also gold. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Yes? Imagine 3 nesting boxes. The first one is gold, the second one is wood, and the third one is gold. The way it worked was that the third box on the inside that was gold had a lip around the edge that went over the other 2 boxes. Therefore, when you looked at the ark from the outside, all you saw was gold. Does that make sense? When you look at the ark, you look at it from the outside because the outermost box was gold. You look at it from the inside, again, theoretically, not that anybody was doing this, but you look from the inside is gold and it has a gold lip on the top. You didn't see any remnant or any whatever. You didn't see any sign of the wooden box, but the core of it was made of the wood. But outside and inside were gold. I'm going to give you Kabbalah on this in a moment. But first, let's understand the actual structure. I'm going to get back and share an insight that I think you'll love in a moment. Let's continue. You shall make upon it a golden crown all around. Golden crown means like there's an English word, like with the F-I-L-L, kind of like when you take gold and it's kind of like overlaid kind of stuff, like a design, like a mesh design-ish. What's it called? Filigree. Yes, thank you. So it's got that type of design. That's called the golden crown on the top, like in the top edge. Let's continue, verse 12. Again, if we saw a picture, we'd be like, oh yeah, that's what it looks like. But here's the written description of how they were to build it. This is straight from God to Moses. And you shall cast 4 golden rings for it. Oh, I forgot to tell you something really important. Remember I told you how this is not the permanent edifice in Jerusalem. This was the traveling version that they built in times of Moses, right? So how did they carry all this stuff, all the vessels? Typically, things had rings, and they put poles inside, and they would carry it on their shoulders. Can you picture that? Imagine a big box. You know how like certain weddings, like in other countries, or even maybe not, maybe if there's like a king or something or whatever, they have these chairs with the poles that go on people's shoulders and they carry them. So I guess imagine that, but without the king and without the chair and whatever, nothing like that, but a box, the ark, that would have 4 rings, 2 poles, and that's how they would hold it. So here the Torah says you got to put those rings in it, in the gold. You shall cast 4 golden rings for it, so that you can carry it. And you shall place them, these 4 rings, upon its 4 corners, 2 rings on its one side and 2 rings on its other side. All right. And what about the poles? I'm glad you asked. You shall make poles to carry the ark of acacia wood. Again, the core of it is the wood, and you shall overlay them with gold. So again, the poles would be, well, not exactly the same because you didn't have that inner thing, but the poles would be wood overlaid with gold, and they would go into those 4 rings, 2 and 2. So that'd be 2 poles, and they would then have 4 Levites. The priests didn't carry it. The Levites carried them. 1, 2, 3, 4, carrying them on their shoulders, and that's how they would transport it when they were traveling in the desert. They did not put the ark on a wagon pulled by an animal. It was considered to be too holy of a vessel to just put in a wagon and be animal drawn. It was specifically transported on the shoulders. Okay. I think I read 14. I don't remember. You shall bring the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark to carry the ark with them. Okay. The poles of the ark shall be in the rings. They shall not be removed from it. Which means, by the way, even when they stopped and they built, because every time they moved, they disassembled, but then when they stopped, when they encamped, they assembled the whole Mishkan and they put the ark down in the center or in the Holy of Holies. So the Torah is saying that even when you stop and set it up and put down your ark and it's good to go, keep the poles in the rings. They shall not be removed. In other words, it always should be ready to go to travel. In other words, you understand what I'm saying? You don't pull out the poles when you're not transporting it. Leave the poles in. I'm going to also share an insight on that in a moment. And you shall place into the ark of the testimony, which I will give you. What does that mean? You shall place in the ark of the testimony that which I will give you. Let's see what that means. Rashi says, Survey says, yes, you shall put the Torah, which is like the tablets, which serves as a testimony between me and you, that I command you to fulfill the commandments written in it. Okay, so yeah, you shall place, that's what it says. You shall place into the ark the testimony. What do you put in the ark? The ark is a box. You put the testimony, which is Torah, or the tablets. You put that which bears testimony to my divine instructions. Let me toggle Rashi off. And I have two points that I wanted to share with you. Let's see if I can remember. One is about not removing the poles. Why not? And the other one was, about the boxes. All right, let's talk about the boxes for a moment. So if you remember, 1 second, Mishkan Ark. Actually, what I want to do, perhaps, I want to make sure this is legit. I don't want to share with you anything that's not legit here. All right. I Googled like images of the ark. I'm finding some that look a little bit more legit, a little bit less legit. Okay. Whatever. I don't know that I'm going to share with you. Let me just share with you the insight that I wanted to share. So the boxes for the ark, middle box was wood, outer box was gold, inner box was gold. So what's the significance of that? So it says in Kabbalah, if you've studied some Kabbalah with me or on your own or with somebody else, this will probably ring familiar. The idea that each of us has dueling souls, dueling forces, spiritual forces inside. We have a godly soul, we have an animal soul, we have a higher soul, a lower soul, and each one is pulling in its own direction. And oftentimes our inner landscape can be a little bit complicated. We can be a little bit, torn and confused. And one day or one moment in one day, we feel very noble and spiritual. The next, we feel very mundane, perhaps, and lowly. And this creates a lot of inner turmoil. Kabbalah encourages us, as does in general Judaism and Chabad Hasidic philosophy as well, encourages us that notwithstanding the inner drama, that we should try to make the right choice. In other words, even if inside we're conflicted, even if inside there's a very strong desire to perhaps do something it's not what we should be doing, nonetheless, on the outside, we should do the right thing. One might say, well, that's hypocritical because I'm not really that good person that I'm acting like as I am. In other words, inside, I'm a mean person, or inside I'm an angry person, or inside I want to take, I'm jealous. So if I pretend on the outside to act in such a noble way, I'm being a hypocrite. I'm not being true to who I am, right? A person could theoretically argue that. To which Kabbalah says, no, you got to look even deeper, because even deeper than the animal soul lies the essence of the human being, which is pure and divine. In other words, yes, there is a layer of ego and selfishness that creates all the drama and all of the negativity or potential negativity, but at the deepest core of our being lies a pure divine soul that's even deeper than the animal soul, which means, in fact, we have three layers. We have an inner golden core. We have a middle layer, which, like wood, can sometimes be a little rotten. I don't mean that literally, but could be a little bit not as beautiful as gold. And then the outside, we're meant to have good behavior, to do the right thing, even if on some level inside, we're still not 100% perfect. So that means that our outside action behavior should match not our inside conflict, but the core inside, which is pure as gold. So the innermost part and the outermost part is pure, and in the middle, it is what it is. Life is complicated, and we're complicated. Don't let that get in the way of how we act. So it turns out that we're never hypocritical when we do the right thing, because it reflects our truest golden core. Does that make sense, what I just said? I hope it makes sense. Okay. So again, the ark is symbolic of the inner landscape, or the landscape of the human being. Gold, wood, gold. Nothing wrong with gold, by the way, but nothing wrong with wood, but relative to the gold, it's not as pure, and it could be complicated and whatever. So that represents a layer of complication. I want to share with you a story that I once heard told about the Rebbe, where there was a man who was had become very jaded, very cynical in his life. He had been through adversity and was very cynical about people. And he was complaining to the Rebbe how, people, they pretend that they're your friends, but really they only need you. They only befriend you when they need you, but then when they don't, they stab you in the back. And he was very, very cynical about human beings. So the Rebbe said, I'd like to give you an example. I'd like to give you a mashal, a parable. And that is, imagine you walk out onto the street and you see it looks so beautiful, right? You see buildings and paved roads, and you see trees and plants and flowers. You see all these beautiful things. It looks beautiful on the surface. But if you dig a little bit deeper, dig under the ground, it's ugly, it's dirt, it's mud, it's rocks, it's ugly. So the man is shaking his head. Exactly. People's on the surface, everything looks so beautiful, but when you dig underneath it, it's mud, it's dirt. The Rebbe says, but keep on digging. Don't stop once you hit the soil. Keep on digging, and you know what you'll find? Gold and diamonds and minerals. You'll find the greatest beauty if you keep on digging. The Rebbe said the same thing is true with people. Yes, sometimes when we dig a little bit, things are not always so nice. But at the core, there is beauty. And so the goal is to align for each of us, not about anybody else, but getting back to our own avodah, our own service, is to align our outside with our deepest inside. That our outside should shine like gold, should shine as gold, just like the deepest inside. And if in the middle there's a little wood, it's okay also. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. I want to share with you again. So that was one thing. And the second point I wanted to share was about the poles. The Torah says that even when you put the ark down, and there were some encampments over the 40 years of traveling that they stopped for a year or more than a year. It's not like they were traveling every day, even in the 40 years. Not like they were every day. It's like, all right, let's pick up camp. They weren't being driven crazy like that every single day. It wasn't 40 years of literal wandering. It was 40 years in a holding pattern until they were eligible to enter the land, until that whole generation passed on and they were able to enter the land of Israel. But for a long time, they might have been in one place, but the poles remain in the ark. The question is why? So I'll share with you many insights. I'll share with you one that resonates for me. Torah, throughout our history, has been the only thing that we've had as a people that could not be taken away from us, right? You can take away a homeland, you could take away the actual temple, you could take away a land, you could take away everything. But the one thing we've always had is the Torah. Have Torah, we'll travel, right? Wherever we were in history, wherever geographically, whatever era, whatever culture, whatever society, we always had Torah. And that's always kept us together as a people and kept us aligned with our mission as a people. And that perhaps is one of the symbolisms of the pole. We always have to have Torah at the ready. The Torah is always going to be taken with us wherever we go, whenever we go. That's one point. And a second point is that Torah is meant not to remain in one place. Oh, where's Judaism in the synagogue? No, Torah is meant to be transported with us in every part of our lives, every day of our lives, as we go about not only our spiritual activities, but also our mundane activities. The values of Judaism, the values of Torah are meant to inform our every activity. Does that make sense? Just checking in on that. Yeah? Okay. Have Torah will travel throughout history, and have Torah will travel in our lives. So it's kind of like the Torah scrolls that we don't have an ark today. Oh, well, we don't have that ark. We have an ark in a synagogue in which we put the Torah scrolls, but that's a different, I guess it's also a box, whatever. But the point is that the ark, the symbolism of the ark in Torah is meant to not just remain in a synagogue or in the temple, but it's meant to travel with us. Let's see where we are with time, 12:42. I'm going to reference back to just on my own. Yeah.
Pictures in the Chayenu from like.
Oh, you have a picture of Chayenu?
From the Gutnik Rumash.
Oh, wait, can you hold that up? Let's make that, I'm going to make that big for me.
I don't know. That's the ark.
Oh, it's here.
Probably not gonna.
Yeah, I see it. I can see it there on the bottom. Yeah, it's a box with angels. We haven't, by the way, we haven't talked about the keruvim, the angelic top cover, but we're going to get there. Let's see. Let me just do a quick reference.
Can I make one more comment?
Yeah, for sure.
Back to the beginning where he said, take for me an offering, and whose heart inspires him to generosity.
Yes.
I also feel like that could be by telling the people to take, then they are taking ownership of what is happening. They are a part of it. It's not like they're on the sides. They're actually participating in the creation.
Co-creators. I love it. Beautiful. I love it. I want to do.
Yeah. This is.
Sorry.
Do you see that? Can you see that?
Yes. Oh, yeah. There we go.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Ah, there you go. It's close. Okay. Let's do a few more verses. We're going to go into the next reading. I'm not going to do the whole thing due to time constraints. We'll do another 2 minutes, but I just want to finish up because there's a few more verses about the ark, including the cover and the angels, the angelic thing. So let's do those verses, and then we're going to close it out for today and pick it up tomorrow. These are such exciting Torah portions. The next few, it's really cool. All right, chapter 25, verse 17. Let's do this. And you shall make an ark cover. If you got an ark, you got to have a cover. The cover should be pure gold. So no gold, wood, gold, pure gold, 2.5 cubits its length and 1.5 cubits its width. So it's basically the exact size of the footprint, if you will, of the opening of the ark, because it's the cover. But listen to this. And you shall make 2 golden cherubim. I don't know if that's an English word. Angelic figures. You shall make them of hammered work. I'm going to explain what that means in a moment. From the 2 ends of the ark cover. Make 1 cherub from the one end and the other cherub from the other end. From the ark cover, you shall make the cherubim on its 2 ends. Okay, so one, and you saw in the picture, right? One on one side, one on the other side, kind of facing each other toward the middle, protruding from the ends, so to speak, on top of the cover. The cherubim shall have their wings spread upwards, shielding the ark cover with their wings, with their faces toward one another. Turned toward the ark cover shall be the faces of the cherubim. And you shall place, verse 21, and you shall place the ark cover on the ark from above, put it on top, and into the ark you shall place, as we said before, the testimony, the tablets which I will give you. I will arrange my meetings with you there, God says to Moses. When you and I meet, that's going to be the conference table. And I will speak with you from atop the ark cover, from between the 2 cherubim that are upon the ark of the testimony, all that I will command you unto the children of Israel. That is where God's voice emanated from, in case you want to know, from that cover on top of the ark. So there's more to talk about, but I just want to do one thing and then we're going to close it out for today. One thing is, it says that the cherubim were made of hammered work. It's in the Hebrew, it's called miksha ta'aseh. Miksha means hammered work. What does that mean, hammered work? So I'm going to explain. Basically, they had to take 1 solid piece of gold and somehow hammer out the 2 angelic figures from 1 solid piece that would form the cover and the angelic figures. In other words, it wasn't like you had a piece of gold and then you made a mold of the angels and then you welded them on top. It wasn't made of different pieces welded together. It was hammered out of 1 solid block of gold. That is extremely difficult to do. Based on the commentaries and just basic understanding of, creating something, to hammer out from 1 piece to get a flat cover and then these figures coming out from it was extremely difficult and required a profound level of artisanship, but that's what it was. That's what was necessary. What's the symbolism? So the ark represents Torah. The symbolism here is that when it comes to Torah, we have to have complete integrity. Integrity means not different pieces. Well, sometimes this way, sometimes that way, welded together, but it's like a unibody construction. There's integrity in the construction where it flows all the way through. Again, a similar message to what I said before, that the Torah is not just for our spiritual moments or for our synagogue moments, but it's for our whole lives. There's an integrity there where it's integrated, right? The cover, the wings, the ark, everything is integrated together in our lives. So as the keruvim, the cherubim, are hammered out of 1 solid piece, The idea of structural integrity, we are also supposed to have within Torah, this level of integrity to be true to our values and true to our ideals. And this way, we will be a living ark, an ark cover. All right, that's it for today. That's not it for today, but that's it for right now. And there's a lot more to talk about. We'll continue tomorrow. And it's great to see everybody. Max, welcome back. Joyce, Andreen, Donna, Ray. Don't forget, Rosh Chodesh Society tonight, an amazing class from Oi to Joy. So that's tonight. We're going to learn about dealing with anxiety and other sorts of negative emotions and how the power of the mind can indeed modify the feelings of anxiousness of the heart. Being taught, the class will be taught by Dina Schusterman tonight at 8 p.m. If you are on the group, you probably got the email. If not, you can join tonight. Just let me know that you want to join and we will hook you up. All right, that's it for today. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow. Happy President's Day. See y'all. Take care, everybody.